Hi guys, I'm Shmee. Hello and welcome back to the channel where you join me here at the Shmeemuseum for the last time in a little bit, because it is time to head to the United States for the GT Black Series drive coast to coast, New York to California. But before going, we need to answer a few things. Number one, where is my Zenvo TSR-S? Now, a few weeks ago, we packed it up in Croatia at the end of Supercar Owners Circle to head back to Denmark for a service at the factory. So where is it? Why isn't it here? I'm going to explain all. Plus, number two, and this is quite funny, what's next with my Lotus Emira? Because the team at Lotus right now think I'm a bit of an odd one, and I want to tell you the story behind this and the quite strange decision that I've made about it. Plus, we need to also talk about the cars that are for sale and another that might be departing. We need to touch on the cars that aren't here and generally have this last update before going away for what's going to be quite a while, and some more information on what this tour is about to include as we drive many thousands of miles across the United States of America. So let's get straight into it. Where is my Zenvo TSR-S? In the absence of the car, we're pretty appropriately in front of the Zenvo logo banner here at the Shmeemuseum, but let's get straight into this. Where is my TSR-S? Now, the road to Zenvo series was the most awesome opportunity to see more behind the scenes, to get some insight into the production of a bespoke hypercar like the Zenvo, which really came to, I think, the most exciting moment for me of revealing the completed car in all of its glory a couple of months ago, about 3 or 4 months ago, at the Goodwood Festival of Speed. That was beyond a dream, but technically, at that point, it wasn't yet my car. There were a few things that still needed to be done, but the team from Zenvo had very kindly brought it over from Denmark to the UK so that everybody at Festival of Speed was able to see it as well. It was only just over a month ago that I went out to Prastu, to the Zenvo factory, to officially take delivery, because there were two things that were quite important that needed to be done first. One of those being to pay for it, the other of those being, of course, to get it registered. So those were done, and it meant that finally I could take it for the first drive, to drive a few hundred kilometers to Copenhagen and back. What an amazing day that was, before we immediately loaded it into a trailer to take the car to Croatia for Supercar Owners Circle. Now, I cannot think of a better way to break in a brand new hypercar than driving 1,000 kilometers in the most epic of hypercar convoys through the roads of Croatia. We visited islands, loaded all of the cars onto ferries, drove some mountain passes. I've been on a highway at some speed with a police officer saying go faster. It was beyond cool. Now, on that trip, the car held up insanely well. I was super happy with everything to be able to drive and enjoy the whole thing, because you have to remember, we're talking about a highly bespoke, exclusive, limited, hand-built hypercar here, something that's really pushing all of the engineering to the max, something that is really at the forefront of all of this. And to put it all together and to make it work in that kind of environment, remember, high speeds, high temperatures, is definitely a bit of a challenge. But I pre-decided that I wanted the car to go back to the factory to have a service. It needed an engine oil change service at the end of the first 1,000 kilometers, plus a thorough check over, and actually, as it transpired from driving the car, a few other ideas that I actually had for it. Now, this is one of the things you have to remember. Working so closely with Zenvo and the family feeling of the company means that I've been able to report back my feedback, and that's changing things instantly on my car, and it's a service that I've never previously experienced. Obviously, I've been lucky to own a fair few cars that I've shared with you, and I have to tell you as well, with the likes of the Senna, the Ford GT, the SF90 Stradale, they've all gone back to the manufacturer to have things redone after delivery. It might sound a bit strange because you think of buying a very expensive car, you think it's going to be perfect, but it's actually totally the opposite. If you want a car that's going to be perfect, you buy a Porsche or an AMG or something like that, and even those, not necessarily all of the time. When you buy something that's really pushing performance and pushing technology, there's often small things here and there, and that's part of the experience. It sounds odd, I know, but it's all part of it. So the fact that my TSR-S drove that entire adventure when countless other cars were having technical issues along the way was really awesome. Really, really, really awesome. And to be honest, a small part of me thought that might not be possible. You know, I've seen people with Koenigsegg's, with Paganis, with plenty of other hypercars, And I know how these things often go, but to have been able to make it all the way to the end at the Rimac factory, having a look around with Mate Rimac to film the Nevera production while the guys loaded the car to take it on back towards the factory, was epic. So let's talk about what they've actually done at the factory. First up, oil change service. Second, of course, a full shakedown to run through everything, to check out all the components, because there aren't a lot of these cars out there, and certainly not a lot of them that have driven at high speeds in hot temperatures and been pushed, which gives the factory tons of feedback as well. Plus, I had some thoughts of my own, some things that I wanted to change a little bit about the car. And it sounds super simple, but storage solutions, the positioning of the steering wheel, stuff that they're able now to create bespoke opportunities to make exactly how I would like. And that's something you don't get in the normal car ownership experience, and has been absolutely mega. I used to work for a period in testing of computer software, so for me to be able to test something like this is actually right up my street, and I've enjoyed it an awful lot. So the long story short of all of this is that it's now ready. The car is now ready. It could be picked up tomorrow, literally, but because I'm going to the US, it makes very little sense to transport it here, where it will sit for weeks, if not a couple of months, before I'm back again doing very little. As a result, I decided that I'm going to leave it in Denmark with the hands of the factory so that they can do even more things with it, perhaps do some more testing with it, because what's to lose? Well, it would be here, sitting still, doing nothing. And this way round, when I get back at some point in time, perhaps towards December, I don't know exactly, I can go back to Denmark, pick it up, and bring it home whenever I choose to do so. Over to Firefly and an update on my Emira. Now, of course, Firefly, the little Elise Cup 250, the final Elise, doesn't actually belong to me. It belongs to a friend who has very kindly allowed me to be the custodian of this car for the foreseeable future, which is epic. We're enjoying it a lot. Now, my Lotus, the Emira, would technically have been due a few months ago. Originally, I think they thought April, May of this year. It slipped back to June, it slipped to September. Of course, we're now into October. And the funny thing about all of this is that my car should be built about the day this video goes out, except this is where it gets a little bit peculiar, because I said to the guys at Lotus, how cool would it be to share a bit more behind the scenes, to come and visit the car being assembled, except if I'm in the US, I can't do that. Is there any opportunity that we could delay the build? Yes, delay the build of a brand new car that is in seriously high demand and everyone wants them as fast as they can. They did actually kindly say yes. I guess everyone else's car got brought one further forward after I pushed mine back. Now, the reason for that is twofold. One, because it would be epic to go and see it being assembled. The other, because after delivery, if it arrived in 2 weeks, it would just be sitting there, again, doing nothing, and I wouldn't be able to experience any of that until I got back. And when I get back, there's the GT500, there's the Zenvo, there's at some point other things that will be here as well that I'll touch on in a moment. So it was kind of hold up. Let's give the Emira its time to shine. Let's enjoy the Elise for now. The guys can drive around in that. And then when I'm back here, we can go and see the Emira being assembled and then eventually take delivery when there's actually time to drive it. And this is odd because I don't think anybody else in the world ever would ask a company when they have an early delivery of a brand new car if they could push it back, but that's exactly what I've done. As well as the upcoming Emira, we do have a few other Shmeemobiles to return back to their nest. The first of those has been the Clio V6, but there are some updates with each of the others. Before we go through those though, there's one more car we're going to be saying farewell to. We've recently seen the departures of my AMG GTR Roadster, the Aston Martin DBS, and I think most gut-wrenchingly of all for me and for you has been the Lamborghini Huracan STO. Needs must and all, but I'm still feeling the effects of that one. The fourth car to go hopefully is something that won't be as disappointing as some of the above. We're going to be saying goodbye to my Mercedes E500 estate. Now, I bought that car a couple of months ago very much on a whim to be part of the story with this. It was very period correct, a 2003 E500 estate, a car that linked back to my past, something my parents had when I was a bit younger as well, and a car that we used for towing around this when it was very much in project stages. Now, the E500 is working flawlessly. It's been an amazing car. It's worth £5,000 or so. If that's something for one of you guys, do let me know. But of course, that links us to this now being back here. You might have seen the first drive, the end of the first major part, we could say, of the project. I think there are still more things to be done, but it's looking insane in the acid yellow. It's amazing to drive, and I'm looking forward to a whole lot more with this as well. But talking other Shmeemobiles to return back here to base, obviously the Zenvo will wait for a couple of months. months. The GT500, which has arrived here, will wait also until I'm back from the US, because I'd like to be part of that process at My Car Import. At the moment, they're doing all of the conversions and things, but the paperwork for the registration will take a little bit longer. And then when I am home, we can drive it back here. As well as that, the interesting one I think that you'll be seeing on the Shmeemobiles channel are the updates with the F1 show car. Now at the moment that's away for paint, but I think by the time I get back it will be painted, perhaps have the livery on, have been back to TDF to be reassembled, and it will also be awesome to have it with the M Sport Fiesta WRC show car that we have as the racing sim, to have an F1 show car and a rally car together here at the barn. So that would be pretty cool. Updates to come on the Shmeemobiles channel. Of course, there are other cars further afield, like the 296 GTS, like the Morgan Super 3, and like some other things that I don't necessarily want to talk about yet, but one car that I really need to talk about because people still ask me about it all the time is the new TVR Griffith. Now, I talked extensively about the TVR Griffith. If we rewind 5 or 6 years ago, hoping of course that TVR would come roaring back and deliver an amazing manual all about the driver, naturally aspirated V8 car to be enjoyed. Now, like everyone else, kept the deposit in, hoping that it would eventually happen, even though there were lots of signs that delays and funding and this, that and the other. And while it's still technically coming, I wouldn't hold my breath. I don't think that car is going to arrive. Unfortunately, I wish it would. They've talked about doing an electric car or something like that, and TVR is a really exciting British brand, and I would love it if they can make it happen. And believe me, if they do make it happen, I'm buying one. I would like to have a TVR Griffith, but let's just put this one to sleep now on the channel. Let's assume no further TVR Griffith. That car is probably never going to become a Shmeemobile, as sad as that is. Let's move on to the upcoming tour with the GT Black Series in the United States, and of course heading to some sunny destinations, and that means a new set of limited edition sunglasses. When we launched the Futurewear Shmee 150 glasses in purple with the Zenvo, they sold out almost instantly, so grab these while you can. 75 pairs of the carbon fiber glasses with the yellow lenses, with the yellow Shmee 150 graphic. Link to those is down below. I will certainly be enjoying these while driving in the Solar Beam AMG GT Black Series all the way across the USA. Now, it's a little bit more complicated than I had hoped. We're going to be having a stop as well in Toronto, but taking the UK registered car into Canada brings a whole host of headache that I never expected in terms of insurance and documentation. And while it can be done, as we saw with the Gumball 3000 and UK registered cars, unfortunately, I can't do it at this stage. I don't have enough time to arrange everything, and it's particularly expensive, so I can't justify it as well. What I will be doing is starting in the New York area, heading out through New Jersey, Rhode Island, heading myself up to Canada while the car crosses kind of a different route. Before I link back up with it, I want to drive down towards Tail of the Dragon, make my way across Texas. Going to be visiting a certain someone, I think, in Utah before going to Las Vegas for SEMA and ultimately to the West Coast. But I'm also planning a little bit further afield. I'm hoping to leave the car out in the US before eventually doing exactly the same kind of thing in the opposite direction to different destinations, places I've not necessarily been before, like San Diego, Scottsdale. I'd like to stop a little bit more in Texas as well, head through more across the southern states back towards Florida before the car will eventually make its way back home. So that's pretty much the plan as I can give it to you now, still always evolving. Hopefully we'll have a couple of meetups along the way as well, but trust me, there's going to be some awesome content ahead with a massive adventure and journey in the GT Black Series, something that I've been looking forward to for quite a while, especially after I sent the car out back in early July to hopefully make it in time for Car Week. It was a little bit delayed, and I stayed in Germany to drive the AMG 1, so I couldn't have done it anyway, and I drove the CLK 63 Black Series down the Pacific Coast Highway, so it wasn't exactly bad. I'm not going to be complaining, but then I didn't make it back out before then because I've been so busy with everything around Europe that you might have been seeing on the channel. It is, however, finally time for the GT Black Series tour. The car is there, it is safe, it is well, it is ready at this moment in time to be collected, and I can't wait to pick it up and to get this started. As always, there are going to be plenty of updates with all of the cars over on the Shmeemobiles channel, even while I'm away, with Tom and Brad taking them out for maintenance and service, hosting a few guests here as well, and even diving into more of the costs of the Clio V6 project, so make sure to stay tuned to the Shmeemobiles channel for all of that. But for me, I am super excited about this adventure ahead. Believe it or not, it has been over a year and a half since I drove with the Shelby GT500 from Miami to Los Angeles, the Where's Shmee US Edition Tour, I cannot believe how quickly that time has gone, but there is nothing more awesome than a serious road trip. A road trip that takes you far and wide, discovering new places and really enjoying the time with the car as well. And while the GT Black Series might not be the perfect car for the occasion, it is pretty comfortable and it has just about enough luggage space for everything we need to take on this drive. It's a car that I feel so attached to, everything from, well, before its introduction, through to respraying it in solar beam, through to doing the Opus upgrades, to taking it to the Middle East, to driving it on some amazing racetracks, Donington here in the UK, the Nürburgring in Germany, Yas Marina and the Dubai Autodrome out in the Middle East, and also perhaps some things I've got planned, a certain racetrack in the USA, and I'm very much looking forward to that one as well. But it's a car I'd like to do a lot more miles with, and I think this is the perfect way to do it. The third continent, the first time I will ever have driven a car on 3 continents, and it's the AMG GT Black Series. Before that starts though in New York City, there is one more video to share with you, something sporty and new, but I can't really talk too much about it at this stage because of course there is an embargo. So stay tuned for that, and then it will be straight into the road trip, straight into the massive adventure with the GT Black Series in the USA. Don't forget to grab a pair of the Futurewear Shmeemobiles 50 carbon fiber sunglasses with the yellow details if you would like. There are only 75 pairs. Grab them while you can. Those will go fast, but I'm certainly going to be wearing this pair throughout the upcoming adventure. That's it for now though. I hope that's answered plenty of your questions about the Zenvo TSR-S and what's going on with that, and about the slightly unusual story as well with the Lotus Emira and some of the other Shmeemobiles. For now, I need to go and get packed, get checked in, get ready. It is time to be in the USA with the GT Black Series. Let's do this. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you again very soon. Cheers.